Hi, and welcome to the 91 Day Success Podcast. I'm Jonathan, your host, and I am thrilled today to have Nick Hoard with me from Birmingham, Alabama. I've known Nick now for about 2 years and have really just enjoyed getting to know him and his expertise. And I'm thrilled today. Nick, by the way, is from Patient Care Marketing Pros, if I can say that right. And we're going to just chat today about a whole bunch of things related to the digital marketing world. And I think Nick will probably have some really good value bombs to drop on us as well. But Nick, for those people that don't know who you are, can you give us kind of an elevator pitch of Nick and how did you get into the marketing business of all the things in the world?
Well, man, first of all, Jonathan, thank you so much for the awesome intro. Thank you for inviting me onto the podcast, the 91 Day Success Podcast. I love it so much. Patient Care Marketing Pros was birthed out of the 2020 pandemic. We had a generalist agency, and it was called Nick the Marketer, still around. We just don't promote it that much. And what happened is, while all of the other agencies were seeing this mass exodus of clients, we had a handful of urgent cares that were asking us, like, what can we do? How can you help us? How can we get better? How can we get, like, the government won't let us say COVID. They've restricted, only they can say it on any kind of digital platform. So our urgent care stuck with us while everybody else was on that sinking ship. And we just fell in love with the urgent care and the patient care space. And so we help clinics triple their patient volume through digital marketing services. It's mobile first, high converting websites, social media, Google ads, search engine optimization. We like TikTok a lot, that kind of stuff. So that's what we do, man.
Well, that's awesome. And that's a serious claim, Nick. 3 times the number of patients. That's a boatload of increase. That's absolutely amazing. Really interesting. And I won't dive into the politics of it, but off the record, I'd love to find out more about the government wouldn't let them say COVID anywhere. That's got to make marketing kind of hard obviously during 2020 and 2021. I'd love to hear
you have
how
to
you
use
dealt with
words
that.
like rapid testing and the fun things that everything that looks like COVID, smells like COVID, but doesn't say COVID. That's what we had to do.
Interesting. Yeah, not being in that niche, that's something I never knew. Very,
Right.
very interesting. Well, on your website, you talk, and I know we've talked in the past about SEO, but you talk about the fact that you guys have a unique way of doing SEO. Talk to me a little bit, Nick, from your perspective about that unique approach and what's different than what's normally being done in the healthcare industry.
Well, I mean, so content is what you hear for search engine optimization, and I've got an unfair advantage over most other niches. And what I mean by that is, if you're in a roofing niche or HVAC or any kind of service industry that's going to serve the general public, you have to hit like the whole city or all the surrounding zip codes. The patient care space is very unique in that you really just have to dominate in a 7 to 10 mile radius. So while everybody else is spending all of their efforts on controlling all the little locations pages and all of that, all I have to do is show up in the Google Map pack in a 7 to 10 mile radius. So we're 100% focused with our search engine optimization on building that authority in those small little grids. Does that make sense?
Makes perfect sense. No, and
Yeah.
you're right. That's got to be very unique because I know most digital marketing agencies and most businesses, for that matter, they care a lot more than that 7 mile radius. But you're working primarily with urgent care facilities, correct?
Correct.
And so that makes
Right.
sense. They're going to be looking for the people that live nearest to them and pull that in without
Yeah, and
giving away your
it doesn't
secret.
matter how good you look on your brand and everything. People are not going to drive past 10 to 15 miles unless you're in a rural area. You're just not going to drive past 13 other urgent cares when you feel bad.
Makes perfect sense. Makes perfect
Right.
sense. Without giving away the secret sauce, how do you help those urgent care facilities do so well in that radius? Because while it's a very targeted, it's not necessarily the easiest thing to do either, I wouldn't think.
Actually, I don't even mind giving away the secret sauce because nobody's going to go do it. So I'm not real worried.
Fair enough.
Right? What we do is called map stacking. Have you ever heard of that?
I have. I do not
Okay.
understand it though. I'm not an SEO expert myself.
So you take a Google Map API, all right, and you take 20 to 25 photos. You geotag those photos with latitude and longitude lines, and you geotag them and you put them directly onto Google Maps platform. And then you
Okay.
build it all in that radius in circles. You do it in a 5 mile, a 7 mile, and a 10-mile radius. So 3 different layers to that. And in those photos that are embedded with that long latitude,
Yep.
longitude, you build directions back to your facility. So you
Oh,
just build
wow.
rotary and you just do it all in that radius. And we do it every single month with the software that Brad uses. I would totally give you the name of that software if I knew it. I may have to
Oh, that's
find
all
that,
right.
send it to you so you can drop it in the link if you want. But nonetheless, that's map stacking. And Google is like, man, people are asking for directions. People are asking for directions. People are asking for directions. And they just keep getting juiced.
That is awesome. What a great
Yeah.
strategy. I told everybody, if you guys were going to listen today, Nick was going to drop some value bombs. There's a major one, because I'm assuming that can be used by most any business if they're really looking in that, and again, that local map. It can probably be great for a restaurant or other people like that as well that are really focused on some of those local areas. What a great tip.
Right.
That's
And it definitely
amazing.
works on the hyper local. There's the diminishing returns when you start
Oh, sure.
doing it you start going into 15, 30, and then 15-mile radii around cities. We were talking about in Birmingham, if it's a roofing
Sure.
company and you're in a 50-mile radius trying to hit every zip code, you're not doing 20 to 25 photos, you're doing hundreds of them. And that's where you get things like Nearby Now that kind of work out. It's a piece of the puzzle. It's not the whole thing, but that's how those softwares tend to work.
That makes sense. Well, great share. I appreciate that. That, again, what an
Sure.
amazing tip. How do you know, that's something, again, that's maybe again, I've probably heard of it for the last year or so. So I'm in the overall picture, not new, but newer. How do you see things changing in the digital marketing landscape as we're recording this right now at the end of September? You know, Google's in the midst of one of their helpful content rollouts, and
Right.
I don't know about you, but I'm seeing all kinds of people that are freaking out because it's not necessarily benefiting everybody, as most of their updates don't. But in your crystal ball, if you look forward, what do you see happening, particularly in the healthcare industry, over the next maybe 3 to 5 years as it relates to digital marketing and things like that?
So okay, let me get a little bit of a clarifying piece. Are we talking strictly SEO? Are we talking digital? Or are we talking marketing
Digital
in
in
general?
general. Yeah, just digital in
Okay.
general.
So all the emphasis is slowly going toward paid ads. And
Yeah.
you can consider that Google ads if you want. You can consider that Facebook ads, TikTok ads, however you want it. Here's the cool thing about marketing in general. Like the what hasn't changed, the delivery, the how is what keeps changing.
Hmm.
So if you don't understand the main formula of digital marketing, print marketing, traditional, all of those different types of things, and that is simply you have to have a defined audience that you're talking to, and then you have to have some type of an offer that you're trying to make. Those two things with a sense of urgency married in there, that's the secret sauce. That's what's going to stand out in the digital space. If you're just saying, do business with me, and you're paying a lot of money, you're going to blow through all that cash. And yeah, you can still get a return on your investment. But if you say, do business with me because we're offering this, but we're only going to do it for this time, this season, this reason, then you're pouring gasoline on a fire.
Mm. Oh, wow. Great analogy to that. I was recently just talking to Dennis Yu. I think you know him as
Mm,
well as I
he's
do.
a
And
stud.
Dennis was talking about, how people in his mind misunderstand advertising because they look at it, it's just a huge expense, and it can be. But he
Mhm.
compared it to digital postage. I'm just curious if you've ever heard that and what your thoughts are. And he said, look, it's like in the old days when we sent out postcards. You paid money to get that ad put in front of people. You knew they didn't all work out.
Right.
That's the nature of the game. In your mind, what are your thoughts on that as an analogy towards advertising? That digital postage, you're basically paying Google, Facebook, whomever to get your material in front of somebody, just like we did 10 years, 20, 30, 50 years
Right.
ago with postage.
Well, let me answer your question by asking a question.
Fair enough.
Why do you think your business should grow for free?
Boy, that's a good one. That's a really good one.
So that's the biggest thing. Like, you think just because you're putting together content, or just because you opened a business, or just because you do a thing, that people should automatically do business with you. All right. That's the challenging question. You were talking about, paying postage. Paying postage is either going to be to the post office,
Yep.
USPS or anybody to get that message in front of them, or you're going to pay postage to Facebook or Google or Instagram or TikTok or whoever. You're going to pay the postage to Cumulus Media, the television. You're going to pay postage to the Fox Newses or the CNNs or wherever you're going to run those ads. You're going to pay that postage. Okay. I think the bigger, I would call it a pandemic of the mind in the digital space or in marketing in general, is this concept of I should just be able to put a post on Facebook and people should just do business with me and I shouldn't have to pay for it.
Mm.
And
Well,
I think
go ahead.
I was going to say that's the biggest disconnect that I find is like, well, if you're going to do SEO, well, Google's going to prioritize the ad 100% of the time over your organic search, period.
Absolutely. And it makes perfect sense. And it's one of the reasons I kind of like the idea of the digital postage personally. It was another paradigm mentally to think about and go, okay, yeah, it can be frustrating when you're constantly paying, but if you're doing it the right way, like you said, I think so many businesses out there make the mistake when it comes to ads that they don't focus on putting together an ad that's resonating with the audience. They're putting together an ad that maybe makes them feel good or has a bunch of fancy words that don't mean anything, but they're not actually telling that audience, how am I going to make your life better, or maybe better, how is working with patient care marketing pros going to make my job or my life as a urgent care facility better? And when you do that, then you're going to get the people that are going to respond to you and take advantage of your offer.
No, you're exactly right. I talk to my team all the time about money is attracted to speed. Okay.
Yes.
And what I mean by that is, you just asked the question, what are the benefits of doing business with patient care marketing pros or any other agency for that matter?
Sure.
If you have an expert that's done that's done what you're asking them to do, and they have a history of delivering good results over and over again, like consistency over time, they're going to be able to come in and make an immediate impact on your business versus the price you're going to pay in missed opportunity over the time it takes you to get good at it.
Yes, absolutely.
There's a price to be paid either way.
I really like that, Nick, and I think you're absolutely right. And we've seen that as agency owners on our side as we grow a business. Like you said, you can hire somebody and train them, but then there's an opportunity cost, there's an economic cost associated with that. Or if you've got the budget, you can hire somebody that's already an expert. And like you said, that increases speed so much. And I think, especially when it comes to marketing, I'm a big fan of the speed implementation because I think so often, and I don't know how it is in the urgent care facility, but I know with a lot of the clients I deal with, we see they have an idea and it may take them months from the idea to actually even beginning to implement it. And by then the market's probably shifted just enough. It's not as great an idea as it was 3 months ago, with that. So that's great. Talk to me a little bit about that as you work with urgent care facilities. And I know at Nick the Marketer, you worked with a broader range, but really interested in the urgent care facilities at Patient Care Marketing Pros. How do you evaluate for them and help them figure out how to, again, create that speed to market so that they can get in front of the people that have the needs today? And how do you help them? Because I'm guessing a lot of people in the medical field may not do a great job of explaining the value that they're bringing to their patients, just in the way the medical field thinks. Maybe I'm wrong on that, but how do you help them in those areas, Nick?
There's so many unique things that come along when you're dealing in the patient care space, the clinic space. We call it retail healthcare. So I'm not talking about your hospitals or anything like that. Because honestly, they have so much money, they don't even know what to do with their money, right? But when you come to that clinic, and if you think retail healthcare, you think of a clothing store. There's 100 different clothing stores. They all deliver clothes. What's going to match your style? What's going to match your personality? How are you trying to present yourself to the world? When we talk about retail healthcare from the standpoint of a clinic, you have this how easy is it to do business with you? That's going to be the biggest indicator of success, and especially the urgent care is, can I schedule online? Do I have to go to your website to do that? Can I do it right on the Google business profile? Does it look good? Is it easy? Do I feel good about the conversion? What I mean is, like, when I put in my personal information, HIPAA is a real thing for us, and we have to make sure that we don't violate health records Am I comfortable with putting my personal health information online? Am I making all of this easy? And then the number one indicator of success is, am I going to do the thing that I said I was going to do? So when they show up at that urgent care, is my information that I put in online already there, or do I have to do it again? Disconnect.
Excellent. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. Am I sitting in there for an hour? Am I sitting in there for 15 minutes? Or I just talked to an urgent care the other day who it's instant. You come in because you booked online. They're like, oh, we're glad you're here. Come on back.
Wow. That is a patient I gotta love.
Right. Exactly. So, but there's the different nuances that come along with making sure that their scheduler is rock solid. Right.
Sure.
So, when we talk about speed to implementation and how that affects an urgent care, how do the doctors feel about that? Well, the good news is they don't know anything about it, right?
Gotcha.
They're doctors. Okay. They know how to set bones. They know how to give stitches. They know how to prescribe the right medication. They're dodging lawsuits like it's a plague, right? Because everybody's so sue happy that they really don't think about their marketing, and they're very happy, assuming they can make that mental connection on the pricing. They're very happy to just offload it. I don't want to think about it. Just do it. All I have to do is show up with a plan.
Makes sense.
And execute on the plan.
Well, of course, and that's always going to be important. You mentioned pricing, and the other day you and I, and it may have been a couple weeks ago now, but you and I were on a coaching call. Full disclosure for everybody, you can see a 7-figure agency plaque behind Nick there that he's earned. I've got one as well.
There it is.
We're part of a great group of agencies that brings a ton of value to us because it helps us. Again, part of that speed that you just talked about, Nick, 7-figure brings a lot of that speed to us because other people learn things and we get to learn it without having to experience it. But anyway, we were talking and you had shared, and this is a general business question. I know I get asked a lot is, do I put my pricing on my website or not? Mm-hmm. And I know it doesn't relate to what you're doing as urgent care, but I'd love your perspective as an agency owner. Why do you choose to put your pricing on the website? Because I know a lot of people say, no, don't go there. But I love the reasoning you gave. Can you share that with our audience? Why do you put that pricing out on the website? What's your reasoning behind that?
Well, first of all, we're proud of it, but that's not the most important thing. It's the biggest objection, and I just want to get that out of the way. I don't. My goal is to make sure that we're making you money. My goal is not to convince you that what we're doing is correct, right? And when you start playing the game of pricing and all that, and this is going to sound terrible, and I don't mean for it to be that way. Our Indian population loves to play the pricing. They just want to feel like they're getting a deal, right? Yep. I don't have time for it.
Sure.
Right. Like the deal is we're tripling your patient volume. Multiply that times $200 per patient, multiply that by 3, all the patients that you do, like that is the deal, right? Not my pricing. My pricing is designed to feed my team a fair wage, to give a bonus structure for retention, to make sure that I'm doing using the right softwares that are going to give the best results, and to do a healthy margin, because the responsibility of the business owner is to turn a profit. Otherwise, why do we do this? I'm not getting wealthy, super stupid rich off of this stuff. I'm feeding my family. I'm putting my kids through college. So when I put my pricing out there, I'm super proud of it.
I love that logic. And one of the things I really like that you shared in the training we were on is the fact that you're right. For most businesses, not all, but pricing is that major obstacle you have to come over. And why try to spend time convincing somebody to work with you only to have them look at your price and go, whoa, had I known that, I would have never even spent a moment. Now you've wasted time. They've wasted time. You've created frustration. So I thought it was ironically, in my decades in marketing, is one of the first times I've heard people say that. And I thought it was really profound and a great way to look at it, especially in today's marketplace where information is everything. Why not just make it available, put it out there? And you're right, your pricing is incredibly competitive, which certainly helps along the way. But I even would recommend it if it wasn't, because you know what, if you said, all right, we're 5 times the cost we are, maybe that causes the right type of client to reach out and go, Nick, I'm interested in what you're doing, because I want to know. I know you're more money, but I want to find. I mean, Mercedes sells cars every day, Ferrari sells cars every day, and not everybody buys the cheapest car. They're looking for the best value for them, and that value is something that changes depending on the customer. So,
do you know how many complaints I don't know the answer to this. I'm just speculating a little bit, but I'd be willing to do a Google search real quick and bet that I'm right on this. If you look at a Mercedes customer versus I'm gonna say Kia. I like Kia. Don't get me wrong on that, right? But it is a different customer, different
It is
demographic, different
absolutely.
socio. I would be willing to bet that Kia probably sells significantly more cars. Okay. But I'll
Yep.
also bet they get significantly more complaints. They have to do significantly more cleanup work on repairs and all the different things that come along with that. When you buy a Mercedes, you're buying a whole experience with it. You're proud of what you have. It looks amazing. It drives amazing. There's a little bit of status come with it. I don't really care about that so much, even with our own product. I don't want people to feel this status thing by doing business with us. I just want them to know that they're going to get outstanding, exceptional customer service, right? We're going to do what we say we're going to do, and we're going to do it at a high level with high quality products, right? And they're not going to have to worry about where their money is going. These are the things that are important, right? And they're going to get a return on
Absolutely.
their investment. They're going to get a return on their investment, period.
No, I couldn't agree with you more. Couldn't agree with you more. Well, Nick, our audience is made up of a lot of business owners,
Mhm.
entrepreneurs, professionals. What's one piece of advice as you look at the digital marketing world that you would give to those entrepreneurs and those professionals looking to enhance their digital presence without feeling like they're getting stuck? You and I both talked to clients who feel like they've been burned by other agencies and stuff like that. And I hate to hear that, but I do know that that happens. What piece of advice would you give to that business owner, that entrepreneur, that professional that says, look, I want to improve my presence, I want to get more leads, but I don't necessarily want to break the bank? From your perspective, what are some of the best value things that a business can look at when it comes to digital marketing?
Well, I mean, become a Google business profile expert. I'm not 100% sure the full scope of your audience. I mean, if Google is something that you're dependent on for opportunities for your business, then your Google business profile is going to become more critical than it ever has become. That is the lifeblood to Google, in my opinion. All right. So
Mm-hmm.
that's going to be thing number one. And then thing number two is, I get it. You want to do things on a budget, but you need to define the outcomes so that you can put the budget where it needs to go most.
Oh, I think that that last part is actually something I'd love to dive into. And I know
Mhm.
many clients are looking for the least expensive way to do things, but I think it's so important that they look at what the value is they're getting back out of that, and how much they can spend to do it. One of my favorite quotes from Dan Kennedy, and it's been borrowed by Russell Brunson a lot too, which is, the person that can spend the most on marketing wins at the end of the day. And
That is good.
the only way to spend, and it's not because I'm a marketer, it's really not why I say it, but I love the logic behind it, because what it's basically saying is, if you can figure out how to convert enough of your marketing into paid dollars, you can then continue to reinvest to get new clients. Because if it costs me, keep the math simple, if it costs me $100 to get a new client, and every new client brings $150 in, then I can spend up to, in theory, 100 and some dollars to get every new client. And if my competition's set that I'm not going to spend more than $25, I can beat my competition every single time if that's the case. So yeah, I love, I don't know why I brought that up, but I love
No,
that
it's really
perspective.
good
And
content. You're
you
dropping
know,
value bombs right there, man.
I'm the host. It's supposed to be you, not me. What's going on here?
I'm good
But
with it.
no,
I come to
I
learn too.
appreciate that, Nick. I appreciate that. But no, it's one of those things I think that as businesses are looking at marketing, I think too many of them miss, and that they really do need to understand that value that that customer is bringing in. And I find a lot of the clients that we deal with as a marketing industry don't know that answer to, how much is that new patient worth to you? How much is that new client going to bring in? And I want to encourage people, they need to understand that to know how much they can afford to spend on marketing. If I'm a roofer and that average new job, let's say, brings me $10,000 in profit, that
Mhm.
tells me how much I can spend to land that job, as opposed to if I only know the revenue that it brings. And I need to understand what's that bottom line addition. I'm assuming that's something that you help your clients with well in the urgent care. And it's probably, I'm guessing, fairly predictable across the industry. Is that accurate, or
Oh,
am I wrong?
100%. And the reason why is because the government dictates it. That's their biggest obstacle right now in the urgent care space in general is demand from COVID is all but gone. Okay.
Mhm.
And then you have during COVID, all of these hospitals opened up urgent care clinics and don't know what they're doing because urgent care and emergency room are not the same thing.
Yeah,
Right.
totally different.
But and they have unlimited pockets. Right. So you got that problem. So low demand, more competition. But what they don't understand in general, and that's what we help. The hurdle is you don't have to dominate the whole city. You have to dominate 7 miles.
Mm.
You own 7 miles. That's all you need is 7 miles. You really want to make a lot of money? Go to 10.
Wow. Well, again, the other reason for dealing with someone that like you, that's a specialist in an industry, you know their information. I've never dealt with
Right.
a patient, an urgent care facility. I'd have no idea on any of those things.
Yeah.
And again, if you know that market, that's probably the other thing I'd add, knowing the cost of the value of a new client's important, but also knowing who that market is.
Right.
I'd love your perspective on this. I still see a lot of clients that when you ask me, who do you want to do business with? They're like, well, if they breathe, I want them as a client. And I'm like, no.
No,
That
you don't.
you don't necessarily, and we can't necessarily target them. Is that something you're seeing in the urgent care facility, or do they have a pretty good understanding of who their audience is? Particularly, I'm thinking geographically based on what you're saying.
Yeah, actually, it's kind of fascinating. It's one of my favorite parts about it. You would think, Jonathan, that in a niche, it would get super boring super quick, right? I'm doing the same thing over and over again. It's the same people. It's the same ad. It's the same conversation. In the urgent care space, it's just not because if you, I'll just take Birmingham for example. Downtown Birmingham, completely different demographic than if you go down to Alabaster, right? Which is got a
Mhm.
high Hispanic community down there. Well, you have to talk a little different. That's a different income level. That's a different community. That very family oriented,
Sure.
very single up here in Birmingham, very high dollar, all these different kinds of things. And then there's the nuances of it. You have concierge model where you just
Mhm.
pay a flat rate and you have this membership to the urgent care. You have 100% pediatric urgent care where you're dealing from 2 to 18. That is your demographic. So you're talking to their parents, not to your patient, right? So
Interesting.
it's just all these different nuances that I love, right? I'm getting excited because I get to do a new thing. And then you have seasons on top of that. You have flu season, COVID season, back to school season, flu shot, all the different things that go along with that. And the seasons roll out and different things are needed. So it keeps me on my toes. But the best part, 7 to 10 mile radius. I don't have to do it everywhere. I just have to do it there.
I love that. And again, just kudos to you for figuring out that key demographic, that key thing that matters
Right.
to bring them value. But again, I just listening to you talk about that, and we've talked a lot about marketing over the years, but not a lot about urgent care. So I'm learning a ton here, just listening to what you're sharing and where things are coming in from. That's absolutely amazing. So,
Right.
well, Nick, one of the things that we do here on the 91 Day Success Podcast, because of our name, is I always ask somewhere during the process, um, if you had to start over and you had $1,000 to your name, you had your
Mhm.
living expenses taken care of, you didn't have to worry about eating and driving and that type of stuff, but you had $1,000 for a new business, you were going to start over. What would you do in the first 3 months or 91 days to start building a business that had the objective of being able to earn $10,000 a month after that 3 months? Any thoughts on that? And I know I'm kind of throwing this on you, so there's no right or wrong answers, but what would you, based on your experience and everything you've done, what would you do to grow a business on those terms? Any ideas?
Well, first of all, that is completely dependent on what you're selling. All right.
Sure.
So there's that thought process of it. So I guess for me, I can only talk from the experience of let's just say that I lost everything that I have today and I
Yep.
wanted to start from scratch where I was. Would that be okay if I did it from that perspective?
Absolutely. That'd be
All
great.
right. So right now I have four main avenues, but a fifth as well, but four main avenues. What I would do is I would narrow it down to the one thing I know I can do really, really well. I'm not
Mm,
going to do four things good. I'm going to do one thing really, really, really well. And then I'm going to blow that $1,000 on ads as fast as I can to a incredibly targeted audience of somebody that would need my product. The number one thing, in my opinion, is to find out what the people are buying and sell it to them. What are
I
they
love it.
buying? Right? Like it's as simple as that. What is your number one problem that you're trying to solve? Urgent cares. I go back to that for just a second. COVID gone. Hospitals stepped in. No increase on the amount of money that insurance is paying you back, right? So you have to do more volume with less demand, right? And inflation, again, I don't want to get into politics either, but inflation's through the roof. So what is the number one
Oh, it
problem
is.
that I can solve? What's the number one problem that I can solve for them? Get cheeks in the seats. Let's get people through the doors, right?
Yep.
Well, what's the fastest way for me to do that for an urgent care? Straight to Google Ads. Straight to Google Ads. SEO is going to be a slower burn. It's going to take a little longer.
Yep.
Facebook is an immediate need. It's interruption marketing, right? So that's something like I didn't know I needed that, and I don't really care because I don't need it right now in the urgent care
Right.
space. With Google Ads, puts you right at the top for people who are searching for it right now. Let's get them in the door. So that
And
would be
obviously they
how I
need
would
it. Mm-hmm.
hyper focus.
I love it. What a great idea. And again, it makes perfect sense. That's a great segue into some ads. I know you've got numerous Google ad certifications and a lot of expertise in that area. As you look at the ad space, I know we talked a little bit earlier about how everything's moving to paid ads, but with the advent of AI and the things that Google's integrating, and I know just recently they just dumped a whole bunch of new changes. I was just noticing it in my Google search today. I had a bunch of new buttons that I haven't seen before. So
Right.
obviously I got selected at some point here in this upgrade to see some of these things. What do you see happening in the pay-per-click space? And if you would, I know it's two questions, but what do you recommend for businesses? I see so many businesses that run ads still in 2023 back to their homepage. How can businesses do a better job of both targeting and leveraging that audience to convert more business? Is that something you can share with us, Nick?
One spot, one thing. One spot, one thing. Here's what I mean by that. If I'm offering, let's go to roofing. We'll just go to roofing. If my goal is to put a new roof on a house, I'm going to run a new roof ad to a landing page, not my website, that's going to talk everything about a new roof, not an inspection, not a repair, not boots, and what are the things called? Facets. I don't know what they're called. Anyway, soffits. That's what it is. Soffits.
There you go.
So I'm not.
Yep.
That's the word. Sorry. Faucets inside your house and water comes through it. My bad. So I'm not going to talk about all the 30 other things. I'm going to talk about the roof, the benefit, why you need to change it out. A roof is only good for about 10, 15 years now, right? Here are the benefits of changing it out. Hey, we can get your insurance involved in your new roof. Everything is for a new roof, right? So the right spot at the right time to the right person with the right offer to the right audience will convert every single time, giving the right money amount, right? The right ad spend.
Sure.
So
yep.
When you're talking about Google wants you to blow through as much money as possible, right? So you were talking about all these extra buttons. I'm assuming you're talking about like extensions and stuff like that.
I didn't spend much time on them, but I just noticed today I had some, I think it actually was in Gmail now that I think about it. It was, they were giving me like pre-canned responses I hadn't seen before. So probably not a good example for paid ads, but just, I know they had a big announcement of a bunch of new things they were doing. So I'm just curious again on the best way. And you mentioned targeting, and I think the targeting is so important. And I could be wrong, but I don't believe most businesses target effectively. And they do end up wasting money because of that, because ads are getting more expensive. There's no doubt about it. Like everything. I mean, I went to Meijer to get groceries. Meijer is a place up here, big chain. It costs a lot more than it did a year ago. That's life. But
23%, best I can tell.
Yeah, sounds about right. It seems like more some days. But again, I don't believe businesses are targeting well, which means they're essentially burning money on people that wouldn't buy their ad anyway. And I'm really curious about that targeting. How do you help a business, particularly in urgent care, better target their audience? What do you do to make sure you're not advertising to people that aren't going to be buying their stuff?
Start with the end in mind, the old Stephen Covey thing, right? So,
Yep.
All right, let's just, again, we'll pick roofing, for example. Otherwise I could talk patient care all day long, right? We know that.
Either one's good with me.
Well, okay. Well, so we'll start with patient care, right? So the end goal is to run that credit card and to code that insurance correctly. Like, I want money coming through the door, essentially, right?
Sure.
Well, if I'm going to attract that person who's sick, well, how did they get in there? Well, they were on my website and they clicked that schedule now and they booked their own appointment in, right? So I know that person likes to schedule online. All right. They didn't call. They scheduled online because people don't call anymore. All right. So, all right. Well, how did they find my scheduler? Well, they found it on Google Maps, right? That's where they found it because they live within that 7 to 10 mile radius. So I know that my person likes to schedule online, and they did it through our online scheduler, and they live within a 7 to 10 mile radius. I also happen to notice that this person was sick because it's flu season right now. So now I'm going to start gearing toward flu season. Okay, the flu season, female, she was probably in her 30s, right? So I'm learning a little bit more about that customer, and I'm starting to build what's called an avatar. Really, that's the end of the day. I'm talking about all this, but here's the end in mind. Well, what is my most common trait built into my avatar? Who is coming and doing business with me consistently over time? For roofing, for example, if you're going to put a roof on a home, they have to own a home first. You can't put it on a rental, right? So automatically, anybody who doesn't own a home, you can just get them out of the way, right? Are they insured?
Makes perfect sense.
Right? Like, so with people who aren't insured, let's get them out of the way, right? So it's starting to think through, what does this person look like, until you land on a 35-year-old female who takes care of her house. She's got 2 children. She's married. She lives in a 7-mile radius, and the average income in our radius is $68,000 a year. She probably gets sick 3 times a year. Her kids get sick 5 times a year. Her husband will not go to the doctor. And so you start really diving into who your target audience is, and you gear everything that you say toward that person.
Absolute brilliance. And I'm going to pick up on the last part you said, where the husband will not go to the doctor. I know my wife will go to the doctor 10 times before I will. I'm
not going.
I live there. I get it. So yeah, don't target me because I'm not interested. Exactly.
Not your person. But I don't know about you, Jonathan, but you start talking to me about motorcycles. I can see it in the back of your screen there.
Yes, you can.
I mean, you start talking to me about motorcycles. I know we can talk. What you got?
Yeah, exactly. The local power sports dealer isn't targeting my wife
That's right.
because she may ride on my motorcycle, but she doesn't really care a whole lot about it, other than that it makes me really happy. So Jonathan's in a better mood if he's out riding. Make sure he's got a motorcycle. It's simple stuff.
That's right. You got it right there.
Makes a ton of sense. Well, Nick, I know a lot of our people are watching, some are listening on audio. Somebody's driving down the road and they go, man, I need to know more about what Nick's doing, especially if they work for or are involved at all with patient care. How do they reach out and connect with you?
Well, I will tell you that LinkedIn is going to be the best way to get all the access to me that you want, as far as like, who am I? What am I about? You can link over to Patient Care Marketing Pros, or even Nick the Marketer for that sake. You can just get everything at Nick Hoard in your LinkedIn profile. You'll find me there.
And we will put a link up here on the podcast as well. We'll put it down in the show notes so that you guys can click there as well. But I want to encourage you, if you have marketing questions, and especially if you're in the patient care industry, reach out to Nick. He knows his stuff. I can personally attest to his expertise and what he's done. I was talking with somebody else today, and we were talking about groups that we're part of, and how when you get in a group, it's that old 80-20 rule. 80% of the people are great and 20% aren't, and you really quickly learn who the 20% are. Well, Nick's part of that 80% you can absolutely trust. And knowing him, seeing what he's done, seeing what his team has done, Nick does a great job, and he's one of those marketers you can trust. So I want to encourage you, reach out, talk to him, hear what he's got to say. I think you're going to be totally impressed if you do. So Nick, anything you want to leave our audience with before we call it an end of the day?
Yeah, I'm going to reverse that over to you, man. And just thank you, Jonathan, for having me on the podcast. But there is a lot of buzz, like more than I've ever seen in my entire life. I haven't been around forever, but AI is it's the conversation piece. We're using it so much. And I would like to just point right back to you, Jonathan, and say, you've become an expert, like a subject matter expert on AI and all the new trends and all the new softwares. So I want to make sure, like, if you have AI questions, I can answer some of them, but Jonathan is like light years ahead of just about everybody I know right now. So I want to throw that out there as well.
Well, thank you. I appreciate it. It's definitely something I'm interested in, and something I know some of our listeners may know, but I recently started a new agency, and the entire purpose is to build an agency that leverages AI tools to deliver better to our clients. In other words, more value to them. And part of the way we do that is through efficiencies and things like that. And it's amazing right now how things are working and how well the AI is able to deliver The one thing I want to leave people with, and thanks for bringing AI up, it's one of my soapboxes, but everybody thinks AI is an easy button. And I want to encourage people to know it's not an easy button, it's an easier button. You can't just go, oh, I want to do my next Google campaign. So ChatGPT, Google Bard, whatever, write me my ads. You're going to get junk. You're going to waste a lot of money. It's garbage in, garbage out, and it still takes time to do it well. So Nick, thank you very much for that. I appreciate it. That's a whole nother topic we could get into, is AI and marketing and all that. But again, I know most important in my mind isn't understanding the AI about it, but understanding the concepts behind that, because we still need to be looking at AI and making sure what it's telling us. I think my favorite phrase is AI is known to hallucinate, and we have to make sure we know when it is. So.
Man, so we have this combination going on of artificial intelligence and actual intelligence, and you have to marry the two.
No doubt about it. No doubt about it. That's a great takeaway. Well, if you've stuck with us for the end, we want to thank you guys so much for listening to the podcast. Nick, a special thanks to you for joining us. I know you've got a lot going on, and just absolutely thrilled to be able to connect with you again here between member meetings and all that, and see what's going on. Thank you again for listening. We appreciate you. Make sure to like the podcast, subscribe. That means a lot to us. We'd also love your reviews. That helps out. We love to know when we're doing well and maybe when we need to improve. With that, everyone, make it a great day. See you on the other side.
See ya.